Well, it's Wednesday night, and we all know what that means. That means we got AEW Dynamite. As you know, we got a tons of matches we definitely got to go through. We got the rubber match between John Moxley and Hangman Adam Page. The TBS Championship will be on the line. We got Bryan Danielson versus the submission specialist, Timothy Thatcher, and of course, we cannot forget the TNT title will be on the line. And we got plenty other things that are took take place that are pretty fascinating to talk about. But first things first, we're going to be reviewing the second review will be none other than Stardom's Triangle Derby. As you know, we still continue on. We're in day seventh. We got a few matches took place. We even got two non um, Triangle Derby matches that were not related, but they're fascinating to watch. But before that, we're also going to review for the first time ever a full length show by P.P.P Tokyo, a promotion I have mentioned on various occasions now. I never seen a full length show for them. I have seen the matches they post on their YouTube channel and press conferences, but I'll explain more on that. But also, we got some news updates regarding interviews, other things from wrestlers who've been released, matches have been booked, the whole enchilada. So we're ready to talk about that on those updates. So let's get ready for another episode of the Leaded Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Welcome everybody to the Leaded Wrestle Zone, all things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, J Rod here. So, let's begin. For the first time ever, I get to finally review a full length show by P.P.P Tokyo. Now, if you guys are unfamiliar with this promotion, I'll explain a little bit. This promotion is all based in Tokyo. I first time I heard of this promotion was about a year ago. I heard the name, never seen any of their matches, never seen anything or who's wrestling until I met Chanyota, who was a very interesting wrestler. Now, you guys know I talked about her many times over about her recent ban from showing up in the New Blood event due to her outside job away from wrestling. But I got to see it. As you all know, for all you Tokyo Yoshi Pro Wrestling fans out there, I mentioned that Marika Kobashi has made appearances in this promotion recently. And there's a whole lot, and I think I mentioned a few wrestlers that a wrestler that is participated in the Young Gabari Cup. I think that was Kentaro uh, Shizu, but that's pretty much it. But I have to tell you that the entire show had a very interesting vibe, and I'll explain a little bit. Now, this show is completely in Osaka, Japan. Originally, these guys are from Tokyo because, of course, the name P.P.P Tokyo, that's what it meant. However, their show took them to Osaka, Japan, and they used the Collega Studio, which is where Collega Pro Wrestling does their shows. Um, Last year, they made their like an invasion on Collega. Not to mention the founder targeted Momoka Hanazono, like trying to get her to side with her, try to be part of her little bandwagon. But Momoka is not the type who joins a little group. She does have a little group of her own, the Hanazono Corps. But yeah, if you know what I mean. Now, this show is called, I believe, Exiting Mekya Party in Osaka, and this took place recently on the 15th of January. Now it opened up with, of course, with the founder Kabuto Mitomi, along with his protege Kentaro Shizu, and of course Marika Kobashi. Now, I was surprised that Marika was in there. I would have assumed Chanyoto was going to show up because, in my opinion, she is the top girl of of the promotion. But however, I feel maybe because Marika has far more better experience than her, and that's always been my assumption. But you know, and of course they have these things called the ring girls. These girls who escort the wrestlers into the ring. Um, but yeah, now our first opening match is a three-way. We got Joji Otami versus Koju Takeda versus Black Rekka. Now, I don't know Otani or Takeda, but I am familiarized with Rekka. I've seen him in Freedoms and a few other promotions. But what I like about this match is they had music in the background playing while this match happened. Now, normally we do not hear music. It's all dead silent. But certain matches will have it, so this is one that I've seen. It played out pretty well. However, in three ways, anything could happen. But in this case, it was Joji Otami who picked up the win by applying a frog splash onto Black Rekka, giving him the win. Now, our next match, we have the Yoshi wrestlers taking the stage. We got Chanyota and um, Ichika Miyabi taking on um, Momoka Nozono and Suru Minatsu. Now, I have to say it was a pretty fun match. Not to mention, Momoka had her dealings with Chanyota in the past. But however, her antics continued. There was a moment where Suru Minatsu got um, Ichika drunk, bringing a bottle of whatever whiskey or whatever she was intending to, but it worked. But of course, it was Momoka Nozono who knocked out Ichika and giving her and Tsunumi Natsu the win. I thought it was pretty good. Um, really interesting. She did not play that usual fun-loving person. She had a little different side to her that helped her to win the match while she's in the side of Tsurumi Natsu. In our next match, we have singles competition. We have Takashi Daimonji taking on Kentaro Hashizu. I have to say it was a pretty good match because Hashizu did learn he only has 1 year of experience. His opponent, he has a far more better experience than him. But in this case, it was him with a running, sliding lariat on the back of the head by to as to a Shizu that allowed for Daimonji to pick up the win. And he threw in a very interesting promo. I don't know what they said, but I'm sure it was very touching because I don't know exactly what they talk about. Now our next match, we have another Yoshi match, but it's in singles competition. We got Morika Kobashi. This time she takes on Rina Yamashita. Now Rina has a far more better experience than Morika Kobashi. I thought it was a pretty good match, but however, uh, it was Rina Yamashita with a somewhat version of a Razor's Edge turned into a power bomb that allowed her to win the match against Marika Kobashi. Now, our main event, Kabuto Mitomi teams up with wrestlers who I have seen in All Japan Pro Wrestling. We're talking about Koji Doi and Kuma Asahi. They take on Black Andy Wu, Kazuma Sakamoto, Ruji Sai. Now, I thought this match was very interesting because it was trying to determine who is the strongest in this case. But you probably thought, okay, uh, what's his name? Mitomi. This is his promotion. He's gonna win. Nope, it did not. This one ended with a face roll up by Andy Wu to Koji Doi, giving him the win. So I thought it's pretty good. Now, they did have music on the last two matches with Morika Kobashi and Rina Yamashita and the last match. What do I think about this show? I have to say it was pretty good, very interesting vibe, very unique in its own way. Of course, this is one of the few wrestling promotions that features both the men and the women, unlike we've seen promotions in Japan where they separate them. So I have to say I like it. It was pretty good. I think I enjoyed it. Now, if there's any more full-length videos, full-length shows they may have in the future, I will put it. But this show, I will put that in the description below if you guys are interested in checking this out. Okay, it's gonna come from the Collega Pro Wrestling YouTube page, not the P.P.P Tokyo page. I don't know why, but that's how it is. So I think that's pretty much it right now with this promotion. I believe it's time for Stardom. Okay, Stardom. As you know, we're in day 7 of the Triangle Derby. This took place on the 28th recently. It opened up with a non-Triangle Derby match. It's a three-way. We have Tomoka Inaba versus Rina versus Hina. Now, what I find interesting in this match, there are certain moments we do see that both Rina and Rina, who are twin sisters, will get along, try to get rid of the one X factor until it's just the last two. That always plays out in every way. But however, normally in the back of my mind, I would have thought Rina was going to win this one because Rina had made a statement that 2023 will be her year to finally win the future of Stardom belt, which is a belt that her older sister Hanan had obtained and had 10 defenses. Now it's in the hands of Amisuri, but in this case, she lost to her sister Hina when she applied the ghetto clutch on her. Now I don't know how this would affect her for the future belt, but we just gotta wait and see. Next up, we got the Cosmic Angels, Waka, Natsupoi, and Tam taking on stars consisting of Momo Kogo, Hanan, and Mayu Iwatani. Now, you probably can guess this shows another good performance by Waka, who is determined to pick up her first win. And that's always been the case. But however, it was, of course, Hanan with the backdrop driver that sealed the deal for Stars to pick up the win. Now, our next match involves now the Triangle Derby matches. First up, we got the classmates consistent of Saya Ida, Koguma, and Azuki taking on Body Body Bombers of DDM, consisting of Tekla, Mai Sakurai, and Julia. Now, recently, in the last few Triangle Derby matches, they have suffered some string losses, which is not good for them. But in this case, it was Tekla who picked up the win, who applied the Doku Yumu Death Drop onto Saya Ida. But the real question is, do they have what it takes to catch up? I don't know. So we just got to wait and see with that. Next up, we got Oedo Tai, consistent of Momo Watanabe, Natsuko Tora, and Saki Kashima taking on Club Venus. Mariah Mai, Saya Brookside, and Mina. However, this match was a very interesting one. If you guys remember clearly, Momo is going to be facing Saya Kamitani for the white belt. However, if you remember back at the 5-star Grand Prix, Mina has talked about how she was stepping toe to toe against a former white belt champion, and that person is Momo Watanabe. Momo did mention before this, saying that if she beats Kamitani, then she'll have Mina challenge her for the belt. I know they had their issue. There's sort of like a bit of a rivalry between them two, but that did not stop them by any means necessary. I mean, they threw out some great striking kicks, but in the end of this match, it was Mariah May with the happily ever after, which is the tombstone onto Kashima, giving them the win. Next up, we got God's Eye, Mirai, Ami Sori, and Sudi taking on Unique Glare, consistent of Aruka Omasaki from Diana, along with her tag partners Starlight Kid and Ruka from Oedo Tai. I thought this match was pretty good. However, in this case, it was Mirai with the Mirror Mare onto Ruka, forcing her to tap out, giving God's Eye the win. So I thought it was a pretty good one. Now, our next match, we have My Him with C, consistent of Lady C, Micah, and Himika taking on No Stardom Army 7 Up, consistent of you, my how do I say, Yuna Mizumori, you and Nanana Takahashi. Now, this is a preview match between both you and Nanana Takahashi taking on Himika and Micah before their match on February 4th for the Goddesses titles. I thought this match was pretty good, but however, it was you who picked up the win by applying a chokehold, which she calls the Katilai time, forcing Lady C to, not breathe. The ref made the decision. It's over right from there. However, you made it clear to Mika and Micah saying that since they won this match, the results on February 4th will be in their favor. But Maya and Haim saying they're not going to lose to them. They have too much to lose because, as you know, since Julia became the Red Belt champion, they believe that this will be the year DDM will be dominant. But I highly doubt that you and Nana Takahashi are going to lose these belts very quickly since they won it back on Dreams Queensdom on the 29th of December. So we'll see how that goes, or this ends in a time limit draw. So we'll see how that plays out. Now, our main event, we have Queen's Quest, consistent of Utami Hayashida, Azumi, and Sayakami Tani. They take on our current Artist Belt champions, Prominent, Kurumi Harige, Zuzu Suzuki, and Riza Serra. Now, what I liked about this match is that it the factor in this match was if Queen's Quest were able to pick up a win, they do have an opportunity to challenge for the Artist belts, but it was a pretty good one. One thing I didn't notice is the fact is I wanted to see how Zuzu does in this match because keep in mind Zuzu did pin Sayakami Tani back at the 5-star Grand Prix. She does have possibly an opportunity for the red white belt, but there's those who believe there's only one person that could take that belt away, and we all don't need to speak her name that much. But however, it was of course Kamitani who picked up the win with the European clutch onto Kurime, giving them the win. However, they also say they're going to make the play for the Artist belts because they cannot stand the fact that these belts are in the capable hands of outsiders. And that includes Prominence. But of course, Kamitani right now has to focus on her match against Momo Watanabe, defending her belt, not to mention try to break records. Now, I did mention in the last updates, Momo did spoken about how selfish Kamitani is because who cares about the number of defenses? That doesn't make you a champion. You defend the title no matter what. Watanabe did mention that the white belt was just a stepping stone for her real ambition, which is the red belt. So hopefully, I don't know exactly how that goes. Even if Kamitani does get her beat when this match and reach number 14, then we'll see what happens then. So we'll see what's going to take place with these guys. We know if Kamitani is successful retaining the title, we can guarantee to see that Queen's Quest could challenge for the Artist belts down the line. So I think that's pretty much it right now with Stardom. I believe it's time for a final review. AEW Dynamite. Okay, our final review is AEW Dynamite. As you know, it opened up with the rubber match featuring Jon Moxley and Hangman Page. This match went into a full-on war between these two. But the obvious thing did remain who was going to knock out who, because that's always been the signature match. If you guys remember, it was Moxley who knocked out Hangman out of his lights out. Then, of course, it was Hangman, but it did not work entirely in Hangman's favor. Moxley picked up the win by applying a pinfall. I don't think Hangman expected it, but it happened. But of course, they try to separate Hangman from Moxley. But we'll see what happens in the next match of the rubber match. Now, we do get an interview by Renee. The Bunny, on the other hand, issued out an eliminator match between our current AEW Women's Champion, Jamie Hayter. Jamie Hayter not willing to back down. However, while this was happening, Renee Paquette actually gets a notification that something was happening. We saw Tony Storm and Saraya attacking Britt Baker. Now, this has become a full on war between the originals and the outsiders. But one thing I do see, we're going to see another three-way party involved. And I think we're going to see, of course, those who are in between the originals and the outsiders. And I know which ones, how this is going to play out. Now, our next match, we got the Acclaim, Anthony Bowens and Max Caster, along with Daddy Ass Billy Gunn. They take on Truth Magnum and Turbo Floyd. This match went easy as possible. However, as soon as this match was over, after the mic drop, here comes the Guns, who are determined to prove that they want to have the AEW World Tag Team titles. They felt those are the titles that would make them happy. However, the Acclaim hasn't given them the opportunity. They asked the fans, what do they think? They said no, and of course, Billy Gunn had enough. But the one thing that is clear, Austin Gunn, a piece of garbage, decided to take it a little too far with Billy and all this other stuff. But Billy said, fine, you get this title match regardless. And I think that was part of the plan by Colton and Austin. But the real question is, are we going to see the Acclaim drop the titles? We don't know. But I would like to see them continue on as the tag team titles a little bit more longer, to be honest with you. Now, our next interview, this time is coming from Alex Marvez. He talks to Jungle Boy. It's now been confirmed that Jungle Boy and Hook has parted ways. This whole thing between them is done. Now, as you know, Jungle Boy has already been part of the tag team division before. However, he's willing to take the next step of his career as a singles competitor. He said he wants to uh, push himself to be champion. Now, the most logical choice he could get for a title could be, of course, the TNT title. That's something we can see him obtain in the future. But or the All Atlantic Championship. We don't know yet, but we'll see how that's going to go out. Our next match, we have Konosuke Takeshita versus Brian Cage. Now, you probably think this is going to be one hell of a match. It did. You got someone like Takeshita, who we've seen how phenomenal he is in the ring, and I think that tells us all. Then you got Brian Cage, who is very dominant in the ring. But it was, of course, a very interesting knee strike by Takeshita that finished off, of course, Brian Cage. So it was a pretty good match. I liked it. Now, we do get an interview with the members of the Jericho Appreciation Society. Now, once again, Jericho denies that they cheated, but they always claim that their opponents, when they do a move, they call it as illegal. However, Ricky Stark says that he wants to get his hands on Jericho. It appears that Garcia and Guevara came up with an idea of a gauntlet match. They're gonna put, basically he has to go through Cool Hands, then Daddy Magic, then of course Garcia or Guevara, then he gets his hands to Jericho. So this is going to be a very interesting gauntlet match. Now, as soon as this happened, we saw the Elite, as you know, that are not doing anything, just playing basketball. Apparently, they overheard the comments by Top Flight saying they want to challenge them for the trios titles with R.A. Fox. They're down with it. However, we did see Stokey Hathaway and member with Ethan Page, Matt Hardy, and Orange Cassidy. They say they are not doing anything this week, so they're going to face them this coming Friday on Rampage. And I think this is going to be interesting to see, but we'll find out. Now, our next match, we got Bryan Danielson taking on Timothy Thatcher. I have to say, this was a pretty amazing match because if you guys ever seen Timothy Thatcher, he looks more like the kind of guy who's just going to break your bones or try to joint manipulate your every bone, if you guys noticed that. And I thought it was very interesting how it was methodical by Timothy Thatcher. But however, the referee was knocked out at some point of the match. MJF comes out, is trying to ensure that Bryan Danielson does not make it all the way to the Revolution at I think it's in February. That's the one thing he does not want. Luckily, Takeshita shows up to give him a helping hand. Takeshita did stated that Bryan Danielson is his hero. But while that was happening, Bryan Danielson was able to pick up the win by applying the Psycho knee to Timothy Thatcher in order to win the match. However, in the back we see the brawl between MJF and Takeshita go on, but they were able to separate them. But apparently, Tony Khan decided that they're gonna put Takeshita and MJF in an AEW World Title Eliminator matchup, which of course MJF will not allow to do it, but he has no other choice. The boss has spoken. Oh. Now, as you know, Swerve has some issues recently. He talked about Dustin Rhodes, who felt like the cameras were pointing at him instead of not Swerve. So basically, we're going to see a bit of a feud between them. So we're going to see how that's going to grow out. Now, as soon as we all saw what happened, it's already been announced that Bryan Danielson's next opponent is none other than Rush. Of course, Lexi Nair shows up to get comments from Rush, but as soon as before he says anything, here comes MJF giving him a briefcase full of money, telling him that he wants to watch him destroy Bryan Danielson. But of course, Rush has one thing in his mind, is that AEW World Title, so that is still on his mind. So we'll see about that, how it goes. Now, our next match, we got the TBS title between Red Velvet and Jade Cargill. I have to say, Red Velvet has developed a lot of ways. We have seen her, how she changed, and I thought it was a pretty good one. I think this match was a very good performance by Red Velvet, how she's evolved. I don't think she had any ring rust since she was injured, but it played out pretty well. But however, Jade was able to modify whatever Red Velvet was going to do into the Jaded 1-2-3. Now it's 50-0. Sooner or later, we're going to see Jade Cargill lose the title, but we don't know how. Yet we're waiting for that one person who should be the one to dethrone her. Now, however, as I mentioned before, we did see Britt Baker was attacked by Saraya and Toni Storm. But in this case, Britt Baker was doing fine. Ruby Soho went up to check up on her. But however, she accused Ruby Soho thinking she was involved. Now, Ruby's not involved in any group. However, I did state it. There's going to be a three-way war in the women's division. So I think that's what I believe is going to happen down the road. Now, our next match, our main event, is the TNT title between Samoa Joe and the champion Darby Allin. I have to say this match was brutally insane. Darby Allin with a sweater full of tacks. Insane. But pulling out the exposed board under the ring, that was even crazier. But it took an extreme muscle buster by Samoa Joe to defeat Darby Allin and regain the belt. But however, his party was cut short with the arrival of Wardlow, who wants revenge on Samoa Joe. Even security tried to detain him, but they got their asses whooped. So we'll see what happens down the road. And I think that's pretty much it with all the reviews. I believe it's time for news updates. Okay, so welcome to our news updates here. Good news on the AEW front. Now, a while back, many of the AEW talent has spoken to Tony Khan about having house shows. Now, AEW were not in the business of doing house shows because, if you guys remember, they did not want to follow that same blueprint that, of course, WWE did. Remember, these guys work 6 days out of the 7 days a week doing house shows, the main shows like Raw and SmackDown. AEW were not thinking about that. However, many talent has spoken, and now it appears that they're going to have that. The house shows is going to call it the AEW House Rules. I have to say it's very interesting. It starts this weekend in Ohio. I don't know where else. Apparently, they're saying that the ticket prices goes up between 75 to 40 to 20 bucks. So hopefully they do come to my neck of the woods here in San Diego. I'm looking forward if that ever comes. And if I do, I will be making a trip down there. So there's that. Now, as you all know, we talked about Kota Ibushi, how he is no longer under contract with New Japan Pro Wrestling. They sent out their little good luck in the future, that sort of thing. However, many people are now speculating that Kota Ibushi will be on his way to AEW. However, that's not the case. He already is booked for 2 events at the GCW Collective that's taking place on WrestleMania week. He will appear at the Joey Janela Spring Break, and then of course Bloodsport 6, taking on Speedball Mike Bailey. However, he did state it before he does talk to Tony Khan. He wants to go back to Japan and start out his own wrestling school in Japan. So he said once that's established, he's willing to talk to Tony Khan and or who else is willing. But I feel like Tony Khan is the one person that he should go to due to the fact that Tony Khan is very interesting. I'm sure many AEW fans would love to see Kota Ibushi at AEW. However, certain people spoke highly about Kota Ibushi. The first one is, of course, someone that he knows all too well, Konosuke Takeshita. This is what he had to say. Respectfully, and he is a wall for me that I will have to overcome someday. So basically, he knows he may have to confront him down the line. But another unusual person spoke highly of him, and that is none other than the Space Freak, the Unagi Sayaka. With this is what she had to say. Kota Ibushi is a wonderful, absolute crazy wrestler. I hope for his comeback. So basically, it seems she's a big fan of him. So I can't wait to see what else is going to happen. Now, speaking of this, we have this promotion called Pandemonium Pro Wrestling. I don't know where it's going to be. They announced for their upcoming event, Best Damn Thing on I think on the 29th of March. Maki Itoh will make her appearance, and she will be pairing up against with Kid Bandit. They take on Tell Valkyrie and Heather Monroe. That's going to be one hell of a match. Now, speaking of Maki Itoh, she did talked about, had an interview recently with Dark Puroresu, and this is what she had to say. Hold on, let me pull it up real quick. Do you have a desire to team with Minoru Suzuki again? Of course, he's a ferocious and treats me like crap, but I love him. Maki, do you have any new words you've learned as of late, like that you like to use? You know, like the same great swear words. Uh, bando kadok. Um, you think you think we will ever get Maki Itoh and Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter team up? It would be nice there. Recently, you have been in the U.S. often. What's your favorite experience inside and outside the ring during your trips in the U.S.? Every time I think of America, really loves Maki Itoh. I, at Wrestle Princess 2, you face Miyu Yamashita and the princess style. It felt like your moment, but Miyu was too strong for that. 15 months later, you are teaming up with the Pink Striker. Seems close friends than ever before. How do you, how this match affect the bond between you and Yamashita? Is there still feelings on your side that want to beat Mayu? And this is what she says. At time, I thought, if I don't give up now, I definitely beat Yamashita. But I didn't come true. It didn't come true. I felt as I had been reduced to ashes, but at the same time, I was a little relieved because Yamashita's still strong. When I no longer have a goal, I truly it becomes ashes. In order for me to become stronger, I hope Yamashita will never overtake me yet. We're also going to on overseas tours. together more and more often. She gives me advice when I'm down in a match. I can honestly listen to Yamashita's opinions. I respect her for the bottom of my heart. You said that you and Miyu Yamashita want to win the Princess Tag titles, but it hasn't happened yet. With the Max Heart tournament going on, the two of you have another chance to get a shot of the titles. Why 23 this year when 121 million finally achieved the goal to win the tag titles? We will achieve this in 2022. We train individually. We believe more confidence, experience than any of the Tokyo girls right now. You have wrestled AEW a couple of times. Can you tell us about your experience there? After AEW show, I lost my cell phone. I couldn't reach anyone, couldn't get on a plane, but I ran into Excalibur by accident. He did something about it. He is seriously my best friend. I have to say I like that she now is good friends with Excalibur. So it's so there's a lot of good things about what I like about what the tag titles that one day she will beat Yamashita. I think that's something we can look forward to it. So that's pretty much it. What we know for that. Now moving on. Now as you know, we had the Mark Hitchcock Memorial Show that will take place at WrestleMania week on the 30th. It was announced that Will Ospreay will be making his appearance. So if you guys are big Will Ospreays and you're planning to go to LA for WrestleMania weekend, now you know. Um, Recently we saw Keiji Mutoh in a wheelchair. It appears that he has pain in his thighs, but is giving him less mobility now when he walks. So hopefully he'll be fine before we get to the Tokyo Dome for his final match against Naito. Now Noah has revealed that Katsuhiko Nakajima has his sights set on the GCW heavyweight title, which of course it currently has by Kaito Kiyomiya, but Kiyomiya is currently right now focused on his match against Okada that will take place at the Tokyo Dome as well. So we'll see about that. Black Label Pro announced a new show. Observe This Brother will take place on the 25th at the RDS Gym, Cross Point, Indiana. Prestige Wrestling has announced for their Nervous Breakdown event that will take place on the 31st during WrestleMania week. Tail Valkyrie will be facing off against Miyu Yamashita. This is going to be the first time ever those two ever come across. West Coast Pro has announced for the home of Killers on the 7th of April. Leo Rush will be making his debut. Now, recently, some interesting developments took place in Just Tap Out, which is the promotion by Taka Michinoku in Japan. It turns out that Tomoka Inabe and her sister are starting karate classes at their gym. So it's kind of interesting that they're bringing this kind of element to them. But now I'm kind of curious how that's going to go. Now, the Jersey Championship Wrestling J-Cup is announced for a six-way scramble match. We got Jack Cartwheel, Cold Radrick, Dante Leon, Marcus Mathers, Yoya, and Dylan McKay will be involved in this. Now for our GCW updates here, our final thing. No, never mind, that's not the final thing. We have the middle of the night on the 18th. We're going to have Gringo Loco team up with the members of Los Vipers. They take on Jack Cartwheel, Ares, and Mago. On the 31st, we got the emo fight. Jimmy Jacobs will be making his appearance. The World on Lucha, that will take place on the 1st of April. We got Sexy Star making his way. Now, two huge announcements where GCW will be making their way into territories they have been. First one is St. Louis, that will take place on the 15th. Then the next one at Evansville on the 16th. And then after that, Atlanta, that will take place on the 21st of February. Now, recently, I failed to allude this one as well. Apparently, there was two interviews conducted by Fightful Select. The first one is by Sayori Onoi. Talks about her journey, how at first she was not a big wrestling fan, but also she was about to quit when she had her first debut match, and that's pretty much it. And the next interview made by Fightful Select is, of course, Risa Seraph, the leader of Prominence. I have to say that particular, I was not aware that Risa Serra was an actress, but she stepped into the world of wrestling. There's a lot of good stuff, but I would put those interviews of Sayo Inoue and um what's her name, Risa Serra, at the description below so you guys can check it out. And I think that's pretty much it. So I think it's time to call it a day. Well, I hope everybody enjoys this episode. Coming up, we do got Impact Wrestling and MLW. Now, if there's any other events, there's still some I haven't seen from late January, but I'll get to those as soon as possible. So we'll see what happens. So I'm just gonna roll with it or just wing it. But for now, I'll see you guys in the next DWZ time. Same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So, goodbye. Mwah. And have a nice day. Bang.